That's all I can say. So we'll put an Amazon link to the graphic novel below. It doesn't help the channel. Nothing helps the channel.
He's Tony. I'm Mike. We're to watch Devil's Night.
Fire it up. 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 Fire it up.
So, episode 18, The Crow. Classic, in my eyes, I feel.
Absolutely.
A comic book classic. How's that?
No. I'm going to say this is legitimately a classic because this is one of those movies that it had the same kind of production values as The Lost Boys. It was shot very similarly. It's very artificial looking, but it's very appropriately artificial looking.
The Crow was released May 13th, 1994, which for some reason I thought it was like 92 or 93. I thought it was a couple years earlier.
No. It was right at like that peak of the comic book, renaissance of the late 80s, early 90s. It was
that was right
before the collapse.
Right about the bus, because wasn't the bus right about 94, 95?
Right about there. There.
So it was like right there at the bleeding edge.
Yeah.
Crow is based on a graphic novel by James O'Barr. Was directed by Alex, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Proyas?
Yeah.
Hey, I got it right. Estimated budget of $23 million. Now, I tried to find an accurate worldwide take on it, but I couldn't. I saw 50 million, and I'm assuming that was domestic.
I would have to assume that's domestic because The Crow has its reach was far more than they were ever anticipating.
Yeah,
and there's a lot to unpack there. But yeah, I know that it did fairly well, and it's not just like an American film. It's like you bring up The Crow, and everybody has fucking seen it. Period. So.
Because I remember people talking about this movie even before the tragic events. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a really anticipated movie, even before poor Brandon Lee's death. Speaking of which, let's roll through the cast here. Brandon Lee as Eric Draven, who is the Crow. Ernie Hudson as Sergeant Albrecht. Rochelle Davis as Sarah, who was Eric Draven's, I guess, kind of like adopted, not literally adopted sister, but her, Eric and Shelley took Sarah in as
the child they took responsibility for.
Yeah. So. Anna Levine as Darla, who actually is Sarah's mother. Michael Wincott as Top Dollar, who is the main heavy of this
big
film.
Bad. Yeah,
big bad, the big boss. David Patrick Kelly as T-Bird, and you'll recognize him from like The Warriors, Dreamscape, 48 Hours. I mean, he's been in a ton of stuff. He always plays the bad guy. He does a great job at it. Angel David as Skank.
Skank's character is like so off-putting to me that I try not to pay attention to him when he's on screen. And it's not that the problem is it's a brilliant performance, but he's just so fucking gross that I don't want to look at him. So
Lawrence Mason as Tintin and Michael Massey as Funboy.
And it's a superb cast.
It's a great cast.
Every role is perfectly cast, and yet weirdly, like, this is a movie that had no real stars in it. I mean, Brandon Lee had done a couple of films. He did like Rapid Fire and a couple of others, But for the most part, that was the kind of shit that you would rent on VHS. You pick it up at Blockbuster and just
Yeah.
be like, oh, I haven't seen this. I want to watch a martial arts, action film. That's what Brandon Lee had done prior to this. This I see. I don't know if this was intended to be his big breakout role, or if this became his big breakout role because of the tragedy that happened while they were making the film. So in either case, it was superb casting.
It was.
There's not a wasted character in this film by any stretch, and it's also amazing to me how much they look like their graphic novel counterparts. It's
Uh, well, uh, so let's go ahead and talk about the graphic novel here a little bit real quick. So I've read it this morning. And while Fun Boy looks like Fun Boy,
yeah,
um, Sarah doesn't look like Sarah. Um, like Darla, who's not even Darla, she's named something else. Is in there for like 2 seconds.
it's like I think it's
Yeah.
Sherry. It's not Darla. It's like
No,
Sherry. Yeah,
Sherry is Sarah.
yeah.
And I forgot what Darla's name was in it. But
Um,
but like you said the other night, Tintin in the movie looks like T-Bird in the graphic novel.
yeah, exactly.
But Fun Boy looks like Fun Boy. There is no Skank.
No,
Well, there is Skank, but he's not a member of the gang.
yeah,
Top Dollar doesn't kind of looks like Top Dollar, except he's not dressed as fancy
yeah, no, yeah,
as
exactly.
debonair as Top Dollar in the movie.
Well, I mean, and
I will say this. I will say this. The best representation in the movie was Gideon. Gideon was spot on.
yeah, oh, absolutely,
Gideon
yeah.
was spot on casting.
So, and see, here's the other thing. Like, there was Tony Todd plays their bodyguard in the movie, and there is no.
Thank you. I was wondering
Yeah,
who that was. Yes,
yeah,
the Candy Man.
yeah, and well, there's Tony Todd, and then there's Bai Ling, and Bai Ling plays Top Dollar's sister, who does not exist in the graphic novel. Um, and the thing is, this is an odd one because this is simultaneously a great adaptation of the graphic novel, but at the same time, it's completely different than the graphic novel. And what I mean by
It is.
that is there are like characters are lifted straight from the graphic novel and whole scenes are taken straight from the graphic novel, but the story in the graphic novel isn't as coherent. The story in the graphic novel plays with time. It's much more a mood piece, and it
Yes,
is about rage and anger, and it is a much darker take on this story.
it is.
They did change some stuff within the film, and I don't know if they changed it because of what happened while they were shooting the film, or if it was done intentionally. But
I would say it's done more intentionally to make it a more coherent storyline. Because, like you said, it's very much a mood piece. Um, the scenes that happen in the graphic novel are very abrupt.
yeah,
They start and end very quickly. There's
yeah,
not much build up to any of it. It's like, okay, here's the crow, here's the bad guys. He says a couple lines of poetry, kills them. Next scene, here's the crow. Don't look, Eric. Don't look. You're going to regret it. Oh, goddamn, you fucking looked again, you asshole. Here, go kill some motherfuckers.
well, I mean, just to get this out of the way, and if you haven't read the graphic novel, shame on you, period, exclamation point, because if you've watched the movie, it's not the same. Read the graphic novel, it's a very different experience. But um, during the production of the movie, everybody knows that Brandon Lee was accidentally shot and killed, and it was because the company that was taking care of the firearms used in the film, they decided to make their own blanks, and something got stuck in the barrel of one of the guns, and so when they were shooting the scene, the projectile that shouldn't have been there at all, that was stuck in the barrel, got forced out, and it hit Brandon Lee and killed him. um and this is what I mean when I'm saying this. In the graphic novel, Eric is the one that's shot, and he is shot twice. He is shot point blank in the head, and he manages to hang on for the 30 hours before he dies. And uh, not I don't want to get too deep in the details. If read it, it will really change the way you view that character. Um, but
You can spoil it, man.
I was just gonna say, like when he gets shot in the back. He gets shot in the head. It blows out his eyelid, so he has a scar throughout the entire graphic novel. His hair catches on fire. That's how close the gun is to his head when it goes off. And part of his brain is missing. And they actually like are very graphic. He's conscious and on the operating table, and the crow actually first appears there and is telling him, you don't have to look, you can look away, you can come with me, we can, be the end of all this pain. And Eric is trying to hang on because he's trying to find out what the hell happened to Shelley. The rape of Shelley is much more graphic in the graphic novel. But
yeah, it is. They don't show anything, but they tell.
yeah, and they tell it very vividly, I guess is the way that I should say that. But again, the graphic novel is much more of a mood piece. It is a lot less coherent. It is much more about relating the anger and the loss and all of that, and then taking apart the people and their motives for why they did what they did.
Yeah.
The movie takes all that, fine tunes it a bit, tells it in a narrative structure that is a lot easier to follow. It is much more A to B to C to D in the movie. And when I first watched the movie again, I was like, you know what, I want to talk about this and kind of talk about how the graphic novel is better than the
It's not
movie.
though.
But then I reread the graphic
Not
novel and I'm like, no, the graphic novel isn't better than the movie. It's different.
different.
And I don't know if you're familiar with like the origins of the graphic novel, but what had happened was James O'Barr was engaged to be married, and his wife was, or his future wife, his fiance, she was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. And then he had read a story about a couple that had been, you know, killed over a $20 engagement ring. And he took these two things, and really The Crow is his attempt at dealing with loss.
Yeah.
And it's about the anger and the sense of loss, and that really comes through on the page. And artwork.
And here's the thing, if you read the graphic novel, you don't know that, then you don't know where the guy's coming from, and you lose that context. Without that context, it's not a good graphic novel in my opinion, because the and I know, and I'm sure this was done for a reason. So I'm speculating it's done for a reason. The artwork when it's just him and Shelley is very beautifully done, very tastefully drawn, and then the stuff that's not is very gritty, very dirty, very sloppily done. So I'm sure that was 100% intentional. But going back to my original point is, like you said it perfectly. It is a mood piece. It is not a coherent narrative. It's very much it comes off as a first draft thrown on there. But there's so much emotion in there when you know what happened before this guy wrote this shit, that you're relating to him as he's going through. It's like, okay, yeah, here's your process. And in that regard, it's beautiful.
At the end of it, if you read it, you'll appreciate the fact that there's a shorthand there. He is not attempting to flesh these characters out. He's trying to show you that these are shitty human beings who did something really shitty for no reason at all other than it suited them at that exact moment, and that's why they deserve to die. So I get that. I understand that. I will say that the movie does a better job at fleshing these characters out a little bit, and it doesn't make them any more sympathetic, but it does make them feel a bit more lived in. Are we ready to
no, we can absolutely tear into the plot. Go
of the film? So I'm sure like we're not covering any new ground here, so we don't need to go too deep into anything, but I do want to talk about some of this stuff as we go. But it opens up with the voiceover from
Sarah.
the little girl. Yeah,
Sarah.
and she basically says, like, when something terrible happens and the pain is too good, that a crow can bring you back from the land of the dead. And so it opens up, and we have Shelley being taken to the ambulance, and we're basically seeing the aftermath of what happened to Eric and Shelley after Devil's Night has happened, and they're burning buildings down all over the place, and there's an ambulance there hauling her off. And so you get this meeting between the little girl and Officer Albright. And is it Albrecht or Albright?
Albrecht.
Albrecht. Okay, so Officer Albrecht, and this is kind of like their introduction in this. Now, ironically, just again to point this out, in the graphic novel, they don't meet. They're introduced at the very end. There is no relationship that exists there. But the movie, I think, services it better by doing this. It plays well. It really does. Anyway, we go from that to like 1 year later, and we get to see Eric Draven climb out of his grave legitimately. And it's obviously it's a painful experience. He has no idea, what the fuck is going on. He grabs some clothing out of nearby dumpsters and alleyways, and the crow is there. And it's all very, let's put it like this. You can most definitely tell that the director, Mr. Proyos, that he was a music video director prior to this film, because that aesthetic carries out throughout the entire thing. So he climbs out of his grave, and then we immediately go to introducing our 4 bad guys, which, by the way, graphic novel, there were 5 of them. But in the movie, there's 4, and then Top Dollar, who never rides around in their car with them, but I guess he's a bad guy too. Anyway, we start off with arcade games, and they're smashing up the pinball machines, and then they blow the building up, and they get into their big bitchin' T-Bird and drive off.
Yep.
And they go and meet with Top Dollar, who asks, he tells him that arcade games got, fell down, went boom. And he's like, well, you're working for me tomorrow night, aren't you? So apparently this is October 29th.
Yeah, because Devil's Night happens the night before Halloween.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna work with you, blah blah blah. Shit, and I've watched this movie like twice in the last like 2 weeks, and I'm like having trouble remembering what order shit happens in, and it's probably because I read the graphic novel just as a refresher for this. So it's kind of like I have like 2 fucked up timelines going on in my head.
So Eric goes back to their apartment, and his part of his power set is when he touches things, he can like get like information from them.
Well, he taps into the memories that are associated with it,
Yes,
and I don't know that I don't know that I would consider it a power, because first off, he's dead.
Well, that's how it's presumed, and he's a supernatural guy, and the way it's presented is when he touches things, because he's going through, and this is why it's a power, because as he's going through the rings, he's like, nope. Then he touches the right ring, he's like, ugh, and then you see the memory. So it is absolutely a power.
So, I'll grant you that. I don't know that I would use the word power. I would just.
He's a supernatural,
right? So.
So the fact that he fucking heals when he gets shot is not superpowered? I mean, what the fuck?
Well, I don't know. Like I said,
don't get all fucking philosophical with this bullshit.
I'm not getting philosophical. I'm overthinking. Look,
yes, you're overthinking.
I was definitely overthinking it, and I know that. But it's like I said, this is one of those rare pieces that deserves to be thought about, because there's a lot of meaning in a lot of this. So. Anyway.
Not that deep, though. At least not with stuff like this.
Well, no, you're right, but so next we get the bar scene where they're doing shots with bullets, and we get to see like there's this uneasy truce between them. They all hang out, they all do their crazy shit, but they don't necessarily like each other. Uh,
I I wouldn't say that.
well, we know Tintin fucking hates Skank because he's all pussies drink last, and Skank pulls a gun and puts it to his head, and then Tintin puts a knife to his throat and says, "Bet that shit isn't even loaded," and then Fun Boy puts a gun to Tintin, and so then Tintin puts a knife to Fun Boy's belly, and then finally T-Bird pulls his gun out and has his which one of you Motor City's one motherfuckers wants to find out if this one
it's
bet this
not
one
loaded.
isn't.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to break the tension.
Right. But you know how it is, man. Fucking, you have me and my buddies have fucking come to near scraps several times over fucking stupid bullshit. Doesn't mean that you're fucking, you hate each other.
Well,
You get each other's nerves and stuff like that. It's like a brother. It's not like you don't love your fucking brother. You fight with your brother and your sisters all the fucking time.
well,
I would never say that means that these guys don't like each other. If they didn't like each other, they'd certainly be fucking working together all the fucking time
I
doing
was
shit.
I my take on it is that they are all loyal to T-Bird, but they don't get along. If it wasn't for T-Bird, the three of them would probably kill each other. But T-Bird is like, because he's the alpha dog,
Oh,
he
sure,
keeps the
sure,
rest of
sure.
the pack in line.
I will give you that. He's the glue of the group.
And it tells you a lot about them without telling you a lot about them. It's a really well done, fascinating scene, and I really enjoy that scene, and that's one of the reasons why I think that it's not better than the graphic novel. It's different
Yeah.
because you don't get that depth of any of the characters
Yeah.
in the graphic novel, but it really works here. It really sells who these people are. You also, Darla comes over and tells them to put their guns away, and so you get to see like how she intersects with this group, and the fact that she's a waitress at the bar that they hang out at, and then her and
Which I
Fun
think
Boy
isn't that
are an
called
item.
the pit or something like that, or
Uh, Something like that.
I think it's actually called the pit.
I think it is the pit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny we were talking about the peach pit earlier.
Well,
Hey
yeah. This is
man,
this
the
is
joke
what happened.
about the pit. Nice.
So so what Shannon Doherty. It would have been great if Shannon Doherty had walked through the background. So, Luke Perry, and it was fucking gentrified. Fucking Luke Perry and fucking Jason Priestley bought
Jason
this
Priestley and
shithole
Top Gun
bar and
being the fucking
bottom
shit.
dollar and upgraded it to the Peach Pit. And now the Beverly Hills kids are all hanging out there and they're playing fucking soft bullshit pop rock. So, so anyway,
Oh, that's funny.
um,
So anyways, Sarah is at the pit too, and that's how you find out Sarah's Darla's daughter and shit, and you can see that Darla's is not a good mother by any stretch of the imagination.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and
She's a junkie,
yeah,
so
yeah, definitely, and her and Fun Boy are and I guess an item.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say I don't know if they're necessarily an item as much as Darla is using her feminine wiles to keep her drug habit in check.
Right.
So I like I said, I think it's a matter of convenience more than it
Sure.
is a matter of affection.
Sure.
Um,
But
so
they're regularly together, at least as of late.
yeah, yeah. So, but anyway, we go from there, and this is legitimately like the first scene of the graphic, not the first sequence from the graphic novel, where Tintin is at Gideon's and he is pawning a leather purse and a ring, and he basically is given like $50 and told it's crap, there's blood on the purse, this is garbage, I can't do anything with it. So you get to see Gideon as kind of a piece of shit too, and he's taking advantage of these street level dudes who go out and like thieve all this shit. Um, so Gideon leaves, or I'm sorry, Tintin leaves Gideon's, and while he is walking through a back alley, he runs into Eric, and we get our first epic scene of the movie. Eric, gets Tintin down and he touches Tintin and he actually sees some of what happened to Shelley. Um, and the thing about it is it's filling in the gaps because Eric had already been thrown out the window by the time it happened, so he didn't actually see what had happened to Shelley. So he kills Tintin. Just to cut to the chase, I mean, sort of going through the blow by blow of the fight. He kills Tintin, but Tintin tells him, basically lets him know to go to Gideon's and tells him the names of the other guys that were there, or at least the street names of them. So Eric steals a trench coat and goes to Gideon's.
And he knocks on the door, gets like, we're fucking closed. Eric fucking breaks in and takes Gideon's fucking hand, fucking stabs it down to the fucking counter, and and he keeps
Gideon
that same thing over and over. He came in, somebody came in with the fucking engagement ring a year ago. Where do you keep your fucking rings? Fucking down over here. Eric hops behind the counter, pulls out the box, starts whipping through the fucking rings. He finds the right one. And then he gives like some fucking speech, and I don't remember the speech.
Well, actually, what he says is he's throwing the rings at Gideon, and he says, "Every one of these is a life you helped destroy."
Yeah.
And he tells him, you have one chance to live. Tell me, where to find Tintin's friends.
Where to find the gang.
And Gideon gives up their names, and he tells them they all hang out down at the pit, and blah 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 blah. And again, this whole sequence, it's straight from the graphic novel. There is like literally almost no difference between it.
Except for Gideon dies.
Yes, Gideon does die in the graphic novel. He has served his purpose. That is that. So when Eric shoots the shotgun filled with the rings, and he also does steal the guitar in the graphic novel. That shit was not just thrown in; it's there.
A Gibson, as a matter of fact.
So fucking kudos to the attention to detail. Anyway, he goes outside. He runs into Officer Albrecht, and again, straight lift, but basically Officer Albrecht pulls the gun on him, and Eric's like, shoot me, I don't give a shit, and they have a bit of a conversation that goes on between them, and then people start looting what's left of Gideon's pawn shop. So Officer Albrecht turns his attention to the looters. It'll be like, hey, get the hell out of here. And Eric has disappeared just as the other cops pull up. And Officer Albrecht recognizes Eric from the murder scene the year prior. And then what we go to from there, it cuts to the pit, and there's the band that's playing, and
which if you watched our Brain Candy episode and you've seen Grievo, there it is again. The industrial band with the hard fucking music, everything's all fucking dark, it's a fucking warehouse. I mean, there it is. That was the way they portrayed alternative metal back in the day, or whatever fuck you want to call it.
I wouldn't say, well, I guess
industrial music.
Yeah, this is much more in the industrial vein, because this is post 9 Inch Nails, but before grunge was really like the commanding force on the music scene. But anyway,
so Eric then goes to back to the pit because Fun Boy lives above the pit.
Yeah.
And so he's in there and he finds Fun Boy and Darla getting ready to shoot up some morphine.
Yeah.
And so Eric hops in there and gives his little stand-up routine where he tells his joke about Jesus and the 3 spikes, the 3 nails.
And again, straight from the graphic novel.
Yes.
But not in the order of the graphic novel, and I don't think that joke was actually told in this particular scene. So,
I don't remember exactly, but at any rate, so Fun Boy shoots Eric in the hand, and he looks at the hole. Ha ha ha! It can't hurt me.
yeah.
And Dollar runs off in the bathroom. She's scared as fuck.
Funboy goes to shoot him, and he pushes the gun down, and Funboy winds up shooting himself.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Funboy says, "You know what? You're ruining my sheets." So Funboy is he's basically high on morphine, and he goes into shock after he gets shot. And then we have the scene with Darla, and Eric, uses his supernatural powers to make the morphine drip out of her, which I
It's
in the
not shown
graphic
in the
novel, I
graphic
don't
novel, but
believe
it's
that Darla
implied in the
was.
graphic novel.
It's well, there's a similar scene there. I mean, like
Yeah.
she's a neglectful mother to her daughter, but she is not. I know that like she is selling her body in the graphic novel, but I don't remember the exacts on that one. I remember the artwork, but I don't remember the dialogue of that particular sequence in it.
Well,
But
he gets the exact same speech. Fucking mother is something like is a
Mother is
saint
the
of
name of God on
God and
the hearts
flips.
and lips of children.
Yeah.
Is the exact
Yeah.
bit of dialogue there.
And
And
it's done better in the movie because you have that little bit of extra knowledge of knowing that Sarah, is Darla's daughter, and they have some
yeah,
exchanges. So you now that scene has some weight to it. Where in the graphic novel, it's just some chick that nobody knows or whatever.
yeah,
She's there, like she's literally there for those few pages in that graphic novel. And that's it. Bumbo gets killed with a bunch of fucking morphine needles injected into him. Dollar takes off and starts turns a new leaf.
yes, she does.
Um,
Well, here's the other thing too, and I wanted to touch on this because he goes after Funboy and he kills Funboy in the bathtub with the morphine. And in the graphic novel, A, Funboy dies last or second to last, and B, Funboy's death is much more fucked up. He goes into a bar, he kills everybody in the bar except for Funboy.
uh,
And it's not like the big shootout at the end of the movie where they go and meet, Top Dollar, and it's just a bunch of scumbags all shooting him up, but it's not too far off from that. But then he, basically tells Funboy, Funboy actually tells him what happened to his girlfriend, how part of her head was missing, how he had sex with her anyway, and he says, you can't escape me, you can't get away. I'm going to kill you. And Funboy's like, well, can you, I'll bring the rest of them here for you to do what you need to do, but
just
can
kill me
you at least
quickly.
make my death painless?
Yeah.
That's it's one thing to have like a bad guy show up and kill you because you did something really bad. It's quite another for him to make you go out, get the people that you were involved with, bring them back in, all that time knowing that you're going to die. That sense of dread for those last few hours of your life is far more fucked up. Gideon goes up to meet with Top Dollar,
Yeah.
and he tells him the guy's name is Eric Draven, and
Yeah.
Gideon
They
got
find out
mouthy.
that he was one of the guys that they were trying to evict from the apartment building and all that shit. Blah blah blah
Yeah,
blah blah.
yeah,
And then fucking Gideon gets fucking stabbed after he gives up his information.
yeah,
So then T-Bird and Skank are out. They're getting ready to do some shenanigans, and they were supposed to meet up with Funboy and Tintin, and they haven't showed up yet.
yeah. And
No,
Fun
actually,
Boys
no,
probably
they
still.
know Tintin's already dead.
Yeah, well, yeah, they do
They
know.
know
Yeah,
Tintin's
they
already
do
dead.
know
'Cause I think in
Tintin
that
is
meeting,
dead.
fucking T-Bird's like, well, my dude's got himself perished too. Tintin. Well, let's snort a line of coke for Tintin.
Yeah, yeah. So, um,
but so at any rate, so because there's no need to dwell on the fucking the details. So Tintin and Skank are fucking get ready to get some shit. They go in and get some fucking beers for the fucking road.
Yeah.
And then Eric pops up behind Tintin in the back of the fucking T-Bird.
No.
Behind T-Bird
T-Bird in the back seat of the T-Bird.
So they fucking take off. Skank's like, where the fuck's everybody going? He fucking gets hit by a fucking car, but he's so fucking tweaked out. He apparently doesn't get fucking hurt. He gets out of the car, hops in, and is chasing T-Bird. And to get to the end of it, Eric stops at the docks. Duct tapes fucking T-Bird, drops a fucking incendiary grenade in his fucking lap, and the back of the fucking truck is already filled with, or the car is filled with fucking explosives and shit anyway, because T-Bird is an arsonist and all this bullshit. And then T-Bird recognizes Eric.
Yeah. And you know, he has that, like, you know, there ain't no coming back. This is the real world. It's a wonderfully acted scene.
It's a great
it's a perfect performance. And the fact that Eric doesn't say anything to him makes it even better.
Yes.
It is solid. And then he, you know, puts the car into gear and the car explodes just as it's driving off the pier. Now, this works and doesn't at the same time, because number one, the whole you know, the police chasing after T-Bird, I get. Obviously, he's speeding through the city, you know, yeah, the cops are going to go after him. But Skank in a Yugo chasing him, that fucking Yugo couldn't get out of its own way, let alone keep up with that T-Bird with the blower and a cop car at the same time.
Right.
You know, and so you got that. That's like, it's weird. This is the one part of the movie that it doesn't work for me, because it's played for laughs instead of for gravity. And it shouldn't have been, because T-Bird's death should have some gravitas to it. And the whole bit with Skank, it just Skank is repulsive anyway. Don't get me wrong. Skank as a character is disgusting. The performance behind Skank is fucking flawless, because he plays a tweaker piece of shit to the nines. I buy that man, it like would fucking, the cameras would quit rolling and he would go back to his trailer and fucking hit some crystal meth and then come out and shoot his next scene. So kudos for a perfect performance. But just know that your performance is so good that I fucking hate you. So Skank goes back to Top Dollar, and he gives his tweaker obituary for what happened to T-Bird. And we find out, we get this character moment where, like, Top Dollar is talking to all his lieutenants, and he's all like, you know, I'm bored. I just wish I was a little bit hungry, and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, you don't want us to burn down half the city for demolition? No, I want a lot of fire so goddamn big that gods will recognize it again.
I know, that's so fucking stupid, that the whole fucking speech, we're not going to do Devil's Night, so we're going to do Devil's Night, but bigger and better.
It's such flimsy character development, and like, I realized that they didn't want to get too complicated with developing these characters, and I realized that they didn't want to get bogged down in a, you know, shit ton of characters and a shit ton of dialogue and a shit tons of goings on with them. But this is like, it's super weak. It really is. I get it, but at the end of the day, it didn't need to be this elaborate.
No, it didn't.
So, you know, the other thing is of all the characters in this movie that completely could have just been fucking lopped out, his sister is at the top of the fucking heap. She is there to be the spiritual, supernatural guide for Top Dollar. That's right. It. That's what she does. She is the Top Dollar witch of Detroit. So, you know,
she's basically there just to say, oh, here's his weakness. Shoot the fucking crow.
Yeah. Well,
that's her main purpose.
She's, you know, also like, I don't know.
And an extra layer of creepiness to the movie.
Well, does she though?
A layer of fucked up to the movie. How's that?
I'll give you the layer of fucked
up. The fact that your main heavy is banging his fucking witch sister Is there strictly just to be gratuitous?
You know, the funny thing is when they introduce her at the beginning of the movie, and you know they had that whole bit where like they're there and they were having sex with the one girl together, and he picks up the snow globe with the tombstones in it, and you know he has that whole bit like, you know, dad said that the minute you realize you're going to die, childhood is over. And yeah, that whole exchange, it's really good, it's really deep. It's like, you know, two siblings that are sharing their pain of like they're become the people that they are because they're fucked up childhood, because they're fucked up father.
Yeah.
And I dig that. That introduction is great, but everything after that, it's so, you're right. It's gratuitous. It's heavy-handed. And the only reason that it's literally there is to set up the last act.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, so for her to say this is how you kill him.
Yeah.
That's it.
Um.
That's it.
And so
Eric fucking shows up. I don't care about you motherfuckers. I just want him. Talk about fucking Skank. Well, you can't fucking have fucking Skank. Shoot this motherfucker. You have the whole big fucking scene. Eric fucking wastes fucking everybody except for fucking Top Dollar, Candyman, and his sister.
yeah.
So Skank's left. Well, I guess this is a good day to be a bad guy, is it, Skank? I'm not Skank. Skank's over there. Skank's dead. That's right. And Skank goes out the fucking window. So Skank is fucking dead. So at this point, all the crew is dead. Eric thinks he's fucking done. He heads back to the grave. Sarah's there for one last goodbye.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
so
he
as
gives her the ring.
yeah,
He gives
yeah,
her the ring.
yeah.
So
So
that's kind of
so
a big, I don't won't say it's a big plot point, but it's an important plot detail. Um,
well, kind of, sort of. It sets up what happens to Sarah because after Sarah says goodbye and leaves, she is grabbed by what the fuck is this a character's name actually?
Tony Todd.
Tony Todd, Candyman, grabs Sarah outside the church, and the crow sees it and lets Eric know. So Eric comes in, and this should be a piece of cake at this point. You know, fucking he's wasted fucking so many motherfuckers at this point. But Tony Todd's there with the fucking sniper rifle. He knows the secret now. He knows that we just killed the fucking crow or injured the fucking crow. We can
Yeah.
steal his power, or at least disable him.
Yeah.
So Tony Todd shoots the crow, and then so Top Dollar comes out and it starts a showdown. And Eric's very confident about all this stuff. Top Dollar has his gun, shoots him, and then this is a great moment. This is a great piece of acting because he gets hit and he's like, "Oh fuck!" and he fucking
Yeah.
drops.
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant moment in this fucking movie. That cannot be understated. Oh, I love that one little line, that one little detail. It's like, shit, I'm fucked. This is gonna
Yeah.
suck.
Well, it's a perfect performance in service of a bad scene. And really, I mean, he elevates the material. He really
He
does.
really did.
But you know, at the end of the day, like Officer Albright shows up and shoots Tony Todd, and that's that. And creepy sister, she gets a hold of the wounded crow, and she goes running up the, you know, bell tower with Sarah, and you know
Top
she's
Dollar.
gonna pluck her eyes out and burn them for incense to deodorize the room. And you know, Eric and Officer Albright are going up the stairs, and you know, she threatens to kill Sarah, and the crow scratches her eyes out instead, and she falls from the bell tower to her death.
Yeah.
And then Eric goes up on the roof to because now Top Dollar has gotten a hold of Sarah and is holding her hostage. And so Eric goes up there to free Sarah, and we get a sword fight, and then you know Top Dollar goes off the roof and lands on a gargoyle, and apparently he's like over full of blood because he's got like gallons of the shit leaking out of him. And they save Sarah, and then Eric goes back to the graveyard, and at last Shelley shows up to walk him to the afterlife. The end. That's where the movie ends. And that ending of the movie, like I said, that whole last scene, the whole bit with, oh, well, you can take the, you can get the crow and take his power and blah, blah. What the fuck is Top Dollar going to do with that bird? That bird gave those powers to Eric. It's not like he's bound to the crow. The crow is intended to be his guide from the afterlife to get done what he needs to get done. So I never understood, and they never bothered to explain it or talk about what exactly is Top Dollar's plan once he gets a hold of this crow. So
I'm assuming at that point he would be, immortal or not injured or some shit like that. It's just the same thing as any fucking supervillain. Supervillain wants to steal superheroes' powers for himself, so he becomes more fucking badass. I mean, that's as comic book tropey as it fucking gets.
I can appreciate that, and that's exactly what I think is the reason why they did that, was because it is a comic book trope and this is a comic book movie, so therefore it's okay, we can get away with it. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the problem with this is that Eric was dead. The crow brought him back to life. Top Dollar is not dead. Sorry, doesn't apply here. You have the crow is meant to be his guide from the land of the dead to the land of the living so that he can get his revenge. Yeah. And this is where I think the graphic novel ends more strongly, because in the graphic novel, Fun Boy is supposed to go and get T-Bird, and they're supposed to meet at the road where the actual murder and rape and then murder occurred. Mm-hmm. We get to see what happened to Eric, when it all happened, and how he was shot in the head, and how he didn't die, that he was awake and conscious and saw everything that happened to Shelley, and so he's aware of it. And then we get to see that Fun Boy is supposed to bring T-Bird to that road. But T-Bird decides he's gonna, get in his car and get the fuck out of town. So he packs his shit and he's like bailing, and he is driving out of town as fast as he possibly can. And he winds up on that road anyway. Mm. And Eric is waiting for him. And it's in the car that they broke down the side of the road. And T-Bird's car flips over.
What kind of car is it?
It is a Cuda. It is a beautiful 1971 Cuda. And which,
and it didn't have a bald ice cream man driving it. Or a 14-year-old kid driving
yeah. Damn you, Phantasm. Damn you. So at the end of it, T-Bird is thrown out of the car, and Eric walks up and basically, lets you know that first off, T-Bird is not going to die quickly, and second off, it is going to be very painful. And the very last frame of it is, him holding up a hammer. Mm. And then we immediately go from there to the coda, where Eric is back at their graves, and Shelley comes, and Shelley takes him to the afterlife. And then we get some
follow-up stuff. Not in the graphic novel.
Yeah.
The fuck too?
The graphic novel.
Gun. To me, it's implied he fucking shoots himself to fucking die. You see a gun fall to his fucking side as he's at the fucking headstone. Yeah, no, he fucking killed himself so he could fucking die again. The last scenes, he's up, and they have the weeping angel thing going on here.
Yeah,
Yes. So you see the headstone, you see the angel, you see Eric, you see a door open, you see the two headstones, and then there's Eric sitting at the tombstone. You see them kiss and shit. You see the crow flying over. You see the angel covering its eyes. You see the embrace. And then, remember when you said mine and I said forever? You said only forever. It's forever now.
Yeah.
And then there's a gun right there. And then there's the weeping angel like, oh shit, dude, you smoked yourself. Yeah.
Okay, no, yeah. I'm not disagreeing, but so in order.
So, yeah, that adds a whole other level of, oh fuck, dude, you were in a really dark place when you fucking wrote this shit.
Yeah.
when you see the angel like cover his eyes, like, oh no, he's actually gonna fucking do it, and then weep. That to me said everything I need to know to
Yeah,
like,
no.
yeah, see
Now
people.
that you say that to me, I did not interpret that
Yeah,
as that, but now that you said it, I'm like going, well, that yeah, that makes more sense. That does hold up. But uh, I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad I brought it up. I'm glad you called me on it. I'm glad we had that conversation because again, this just goes to show you how much of a mood piece this is because my
yeah.
takeaway on it was very different from your takeaway on it, but I think your takeaway is correct. Um, the other thing is that they don't live in the graphic novel. They don't live in a apartment building. They actually buy a house,
Mm-hmm.
and Eric burns that to the ground at the very end, and he leaves the cat to Officer Albrecht, Gabriel,
Mm-hmm.
and turns out that Gabriel's not actually a male cat; it's a female cat because it's pregnant with
Yes, kids.
kittens.
Yeah.
I'm I'm thrilled that you read this. I'm thrilled that you read it right after watching the movie so that you can see what I saw. Um, I share your thoughts with me. Talk to me, Mike.
Okay. So, the graphic novel is a very flawed piece. Um, from an objective standpoint, it's not. A lot of the stuff isn't very well drawn. The dialogue isn't very good. The story isn't all that coherent. But the raw emotion behind it is fucking phenomenal. So in that regard, it's great, and I could see, even if there was no movie made or something like that, what people would think is a classic piece of uh, comic art or graphic art or however you want to say it. The film still holds up very well. The only things that really stand out there or that kind of date it is like the it's really more the what little CG there is in there. And there's not much, but like the beginning when the cities are on fire,
Yeah,
the fires, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty, and even back in the day that wasn't that well done. Then like some of the flyovers where the crow is matted in or whatever,
yeah.
whatever the proper technique is called.
Well,
Um,
it's not that there's
so-
necessarily anything wrong with the footage that was shot. It's that they didn't color match the crow to the background
yes,
because
yeah,
the crow looks blown out. The
yeah.
crow looks like it was lightened because if they darkened it as black as it should have been, you wouldn't have been able to see it.
But the story's more coherent in the movie. I like how they kind of I guess they really kind of combine Officer Albrecht and the captain into Ernie Hudson's character.
Yeah.
So I like the way that was done. I like how they fleshed out the characters more, all of them. Even if it's just that little bit, it's still enough meat on there, to make these people's deaths more impactful.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and see the other thing too is that I literally think that they fleshed them out in the film so that revenge would feel more
yes.
satisfying. But you also needed a reason to not like these people from the word go,
Yeah.
and the film provides that for you. Whereas in the graphic novel, you get that they're kind of scummy people, but you don't really get how bad they are until the very end. And it's just because that exposition
Yeah.
as to what happened to Eric and Shelley doesn't come until right before the last part of the graphic novel.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Front loading it in the movie makes it better. Makes the deaths more impactful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind this too. Part of that I think has to do with the format chosen, because in a movie you get the whole story in 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in a graphic novel, when this was originally put out, I think it was put out in 3 parts.
Yeah.
So you would literally have to, read it and then wait a month to get the next part of it. And if they blew their wad in that first issue, well, that's that. Why am I following this? And that happens with a lot. You see a lot of
Well, I
graphic
mean,
novels.
you want to see your hero gives revenge. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's not reason enough, you're not doing a good job writing your fucking story now, are you?
Well, part of it I think is the mystery of what happened to them. I mean, you know that he's going after revenge in the first, section, the first issue of the graphic novel, but you don't know exactly what was it? Why was he so filled with rage that he could return back from the dead? And when you finally see it, you're like, okay, I get it now. But it plays differently, but the same. I mean,
Yeah.
um,
I think no matter which way, if as long as it's well directed, well written, it doesn't really matter too much if you front load or if it's on the back end of it. Let's be honest, because it works in both mediums.
yeah,
It
it
worked
really does.
just fine in the graphic novel. It worked just fine in the movie. It's two different ways of telling the story. Both work just fine. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but like I said, for me, I like it better in the movie because you know why he's fucking doing this shit, and you're looking forward to him fucking exacting his revenge.
So
Uh, and the other thing I like about it too is each one of the criminals has their own characteristics. You know, they're one more. I think they're more defined in the what that's never. I said this already. They're more defined in the movie.
yeah,
But I like how
yeah.
they have like their own individual quirks though. You know, fucking Tintin likes to murder and rob people just because he fucking can. He just it's what does he say? It's like it's fast and it's easy or some
It's
shit like
fun. It's fun, and
fun
it's
and it's easy. Yeah, so he gets off on killing motherfuckers. Uh, T-Bird likes blowing fucking shit up, obviously, and setting
yeah.
shit on fire. Uh, Fun Boy is just an adventure seeker. I think he just loves the thrill of fucking just living for the moment and fucking like whatever. We're
I
gonna
was
do
gonna
this
say
fucking air right. Let's do it. Is it?
he's not just a morphine junkie; he's an
Yeah.
adrenaline junkie.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then Skank is just a fucking tweaker piece of fucking shit.
yeah,
That
yeah.
he's kind of like the little tag along brother.
That sums it up really
Yeah.
nicely.
They
Yeah,
put him with
it
the
really does. He's going along with the crowd, and the crowd, make this all look cool. So this must be what I must be doing.
yeah.
So I get that completely. Um, yeah, my thing, if you're a fan of the movie, but you've never read the graphic novel, read the graphic novel. It's the same story, but it's a very different way of telling it. And you'll once you read the graphic novel, you'll understand why they made the changes that they did for the movie. And I agree with 95% of them. It's just like I said, that whole bit with Top Dollar at the end, the whole fight on the cathedral, it didn't need to be that. And I think that it takes away some of the satisfaction in the revenge
I
because
think it does
then
too.
it goes from being a revenge film to being oh, I've got to rescue,
Yeah. Yeah,
somebody.
it didn't need to be in there. I agree with you. They could have lopped that bit off.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say
They
that
could have
they.
got rid of the top dollar character altogether and just focus on the four main people in the gang. Because really, the movie was over. Skank is dead. The gang's
Yeah.
fucking dead. He's ready. He thought it was over. He's ready to fucking go back to the grave and call it a day.
I was going to say
So
they could have actually, tied Top Dollar to the crime just like they did. That he was the mastermind behind what happened to them, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't need the sister. They didn't need
no,
I'm going to steal his crow from him and gain his superpowers. They didn't need any of that.
no,
It literally could have just been, I thought I was done when I killed T-Bird, but I'm not. You're the reason why Shelley's dead. And
no.
go beat him to death with a hammer. And that would have been more satisfying. But
Yes.
the minute that it goes from being about avenging Shelley to rescuing the little girl is the minute that it shifts gears in a way that it doesn't work. It robs it of its conclusion, I think. And here's something else I wanted to talk about. We're still in this fucking sea of comic book movies in 2021, and a lot of people are like, well, Blade was the first comic book movie. No, this was. This
Well,
was
really, Superman was the first comic book movie. If you want to get down to it.
yes and no. Well, yes, Superman
And
was the first comic book
there's
movie.
probably another one before they were probably not thinking of too, but you know what I mean.
Well, the one I can think of that's before that is like the Adam West Batman movie, which was this character from the TV show,
Right,
but it was
right.
so cheesy and corny. Where that one was cheesy and corny, Superman in '78 was sincere, and that's kind of
Yeah,
the whole point of it is that truth, justice, the American way. These are real. Its sincerity is what wins you over. But The Crow, this is where they're like, we're doing a hard R movie, and just because you've never fucking heard of this graphic novel, we're doing it anyway. It is a hard boiled revenge film. And this is where the language of the modern comic book movie really starts. Because if you watch this, you look at the aesthetic of The Crow, how he's dressed, how he fights, how it's shot, how it's framed, all that. And then you watch Blade right after this, because Blade in the comic books does not walk around in a black trench coat before Eric Draven did. And he does not, all of that owes itself to this film. So you can see where the influence of The Crow definitely influenced Blade, and every Blade's easy to pinpoint because it's a Marvel property and a Marvel character. And oh look, guess what? The Crow was there first. Sorry, but and then shoot, the well lit, well produced music video style editing, quick cuts, it's all here.
Mm,
So
yeah.
as much as I love Blade, and I really do love Blade, you would not have had Blade if it wasn't for The Crow, because The Crow was proof that you could take a very adult theme and make a hard R movie, and it would put asses in seats, even when you have a B-list action star
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch of other people that you'll recognize, but you have no idea what their name is.
Yeah.
Movie is the epitome of, hey, wait, I know that guy
Yeah.
in every role in this film. So,
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct there. Yeah. No argument for me.
so
Well,
this was my pick, and and I'm sure it surprised the shit out of you after Pretty Woman. But uh any last thoughts?
no, man. I mean, we we hit everything as we went through it, and we front loaded a lot of this stuff before we even dug into the plot. So, I mean, we said everything we say. I mean, I recommend it. The movie. You do not need to read the graphic novel before you watch this. Because I didn't read till this morning. So there you
So,
have it. There you are. I would recommend you check out the graphic novel. There's not a better example of raw emotion put to page and to art
yeah.
than this. And then again, knowing it as why he wrote it, um, it all makes sense. So
To mirror Mike's sentiment real quick, watch the movie. If you have not read the graphic novel, it is a very different experience. I wholly recommend that you read that as well. But I'm going to tell you that it is a far more vile piece of media than the movie is. The movie is very slick, and it's got some rough edges. The graphic novel is very in your face. It is very messed up. So if the movie borders on what you consider okay, don't read the graphic novel. But if you are okay with this level of gratuitous violence, then by all means do read it. It is a magnificent piece of art in and of itself, and it is, like I said, it's more about the mood than it is about the story itself, and that's all I can say. So we'll put an Amazon link to the graphic novel below. It doesn't help the channel. Nothing helps the channel. So, Mike, what are we watching next?
next we're watching 1999's Go. Sarah
Oh,
Polly, Timothy Oliphant. Is it Oliphant?
Oliphant.
Oliphant. Oliphant. Um, a very young Katie Holmes. Yeah, yeah,
Isn't Jay Moyer in there too?
yes, and
Yeah. Okay.
Tim Wolf. It's a trip down memory lane if you're a Gen Xer or a millennial even. But it's a fantastic movie. It's a great snapshot of the late '90s, early 2000s. I think you guys will enjoy it.
So I I'm looking for. I haven't seen this movie in a long time, so it'll be interesting to see how it holds up. But I remember having watched it and remembering it fondly. So hopefully it ages well.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So we will catch you next time.
It all makes sense. So, yeah. I gotta look and see what the fuck I have picked.
Oh shit, it's my pick. Oh well, we're watching the Muppet movie.
Peace.